Hi, Yella.
Hey, Zax.
So, this is a little bit different than what we usually do.
Oh.
Yes. It is a Lifetime movie. I consider it a Lifetime movie.
You consider it a Lifetime movie?
Yes. You see, it's on Netflix, and it's made by Mar Vista. And Mar Vista is one of the companies that pretty much makes just about every Lifetime movie I've ever seen. But I never actually saw this anywhere near the Lifetime world. So I think they might be expanding a little bit. But this still follows all the same beats of a Lifetime movie.
Okay.
And this is something a little... I noticed that over the last few videos, we've seen a few different types of stars. Like, the last one we did was The Other Mother. And that movie and A Sister's Nightmare, that's an example of basically following around the mother who's not leaving without her daughter, so to speak. Yeah. And The Perfect Stalker is where we get to follow the dangerous, sexy lady who gets what she wants.
I like that you chose the word "we follow" for a movie called The Perfect Stalker. That's great.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was no pun intended or anything. That was good. That's good. And now in this movie, we're gonna follow probably my least favorite type of star, and that is dumb lady that the movie decided is good, so we're supposed to root for her, but I'm not gonna.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah. So
it's shocking how much issue some people have with making a likable protagonist. I mean, that's also true for some of the for some of the other Lifetime movies where sometimes it's not even necessarily the main character, like the protagonist, but sometimes what we need to see as the protagonist's friends who.
Yeah, I think in this one this is weird because this movie, it's talking about ethics and stuff, and we have to evaluate.
Oh, that's always scary.
Yeah. And so as we get through those issues, we'll really see, I guess, how to feel about it all. But mostly I just feel like I just wholeheartedly disagree with the way this woman goes about everything. It's not even so much just about being rude, So I don't know. But this movie is called, in case I didn't already say, called The Student. And let's just jump in. It starts with a man in his office, and he is getting a heart attack while grading papers.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Heart attacks claim many lives.
And it doesn't immediately claim this one, so he sort of staggers out, and he's holding his wrist, and he calls out for Joe. He says, Joe. We don't know who Joe is yet. I don't even know if that could really be assumed why, but anyway. One thing I will say, I don't usually say a lot about production value in movies, and if we watch this together, you might agree or disagree with this, but I really found that I liked the heart attack music they use. It's kind of I don't know how to describe it at all, but it's kind of it's not just the usual do. It's not heartbeats or something to show the heart attack music, but it's kind of pulsy. I don't know. And I thought it was it definitely made things seem more intense than they really looked.
Okay.
So I think the scoring was really good on that.
Okay.
They did their job. So then as, the music plays, we see him collapsed on the floor, and then it fades or pans out a little bit, and we see a shadowy figure watching his dead body.
Oh no.
Yeah, but forget that whole mood. This is Lifetime.
This is Lifetime. We get an intro that makes you feel very tense and like what's going on, and then just nope, time for some just basic slice of life nonsense.
Yep, it's uplifting music as we see a beautiful blonde lady driving into work.
Oh my god, that's so cliche. Like every time,
it's always. I didn't realize, but like you watching, like you don't have to watch them all, but just look at the Lifetime playlist. I'm gonna put a card in the corner and just look at the thumbnails. I didn't even put that together. It's all a blonde woman. A beautiful blonde lady.
Suspicious.
I don't know what I'm supposed to take away from that.
I mean, apparently that all the protagonists in life are all blonde women, I guess.
Yeah.
Screw anybody else.
Pretty much, I guess. So she hops on the elevator and she says hi to Joe. And so we find out that Joe, the man that was called out before, he is a security guard. That's I guess important for us to. I don't know, this story we low key have to follow Joe a little bit. He's very important.
Oh, okay, interesting.
He has no lines really.
Oh, he's just kind of there.
But I know that his name is Joe before I thought to write down what her name is, so I'm not going to find it out for quite some time. I did take notes this time. Okay. I do know her name. Don't know her first name, though. So she gets into the elevator. We find out that she has, like, I guess, right off the bat, I wrote down, it looks like she has mild anxiety because she's kind of breathing a little shakily, and she does this, like, stretch thing with her hand. So it looked like she was, at least in this moment, feeling a bit anxious about something.
Okay.
And we find out that the man who died, well, he was grading papers in his office.
Yeah.
But anyway, he died, and he was a professor at this college. And this woman is getting some of the transfers from his class. And so she's just like, it's like towards the end of the year, so she's letting them all know, like, hey, the syllabus is the same. So it should be a pretty smooth transition.
Right. Basic academia stuff.
Yeah. Now, I do not know much about lawyering, but I did watch a lot of Law and Order with my dad, and I saw both Legally Blonde movies.
I don't know how much of an impression of reality that gives you, but okay.
I don't think it gives me much. So I'm just letting everybody know where I'm coming from with all of this that I'm about to say.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I know even less because I live in a different country where laws are different.
That's also true. So we are basically...
We know next to nothing, I think, probably.
Yeah, we are the last people who should be talking about any of this.
Let's go. Let's talk about things.
I still feel like we might know a little bit more than this movie. So here's the deal. And I'm just going to ask this question because that'll sort of tell you where I'm at with most of it. If you're going to be a lawyer, and you're going to go to law school, what do you think are like maybe some of the first things that you should learn?
The first thing that I should learn, I mean, probably, like I've never went to law school, obviously, but you'd probably start with learning a bit about. Probably a bit about the jargon to be able to understand what is in like all this legal text and what it means when certain words are used. I guess like that would be my assumption.
Okay, that's actually a good answer. But this is the last class that they are taking, basically. From like how it's worded, it definitely seems like once they finish up this semester of like this and all the other classes they're taking, they will be like take their bar exam and whatever else they need to do and go off to be lawyers.
Okay.
Like this is one of the last classes they're going to take.
Probably near the end of their studies is where they're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she says we're learning ethics and law.
Okay, that also sounds like something that should probably be in like your first year.
Right? Okay. That's where I'm coming
Like
from.
I would like I don't know, like I feel like if you were to study law, you would then have to understand how to be able, to be able to see, be able to understand ethics so you can understand why laws might be worded in certain ways and why certain things are laws while other things aren't, like that kind of stuff. Like it seems very important and kind of like the basis of things.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I think. But, this
I mean,
is
maybe
it for
we're
them.
wrong, but
Maybe we're wrong. Yeah, so, like, maybe if anybody out there knows, you can put in your 2 cents. It just seems like, I don't know, it seems like she's explaining ethics, like, what it is to them. And it seems like at the very least they should know that already. But okay.
yeah,
So,
like
get to know a little bit
unless
about.
they are first years, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem so because, like, it comes into play that he's been the student has been a student for years.
Hmm.
Like, this is his 3rd year. But anyway, okay, so we get to know her. She's Professor Grandiker, spelled Grandacre, if that matters to anybody. And she is a major stickler for ethics. And she has a mantra that the people who've been in her class for a while know, and that is only fools break the rules. Yeah.
But what if the rules are wrong? Did she ever think about
Well,
that? Like maybe the rules are wrong.
yeah, and like, I guess
Rebel
again,
life.
I definitely thought, based on what I've seen in movies, that like college was more like about explaining your thoughts, and a professor can say why those might be misguided, but like if you can back it up, it's like I don't know. College seems like where you are being educated on things, but it's also you're being taught to like shape your own views in a
I mean,
way and
I
like
mean, as
defend what
somebody,
you
I
believe.
mean, as somebody who is currently
Hmm.
studying chemistry in college, a lot of what we
Hmm.
learn, well, of course, it's a bit different, of course, when you compare like law to chemistry,
Of course.
but
Yeah.
as far as that goes, like one of the things, like what we learn is not just how things work and what models are that explain certain phenomena, etc., etc. We also learn to to reason within or sometimes outside of those models, depending on on the accuracy of the model itself. Like how we don't just learn what reality, like what comports to reality, but we also learn how to think about things, how to if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
and
No, I
yeah,
think
that's kind of what you say. Like you don't just learn the quote unquote the facts, but you also learn how to interpret things and how to think about things.
yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I thought was weird about just her teaching is very high school in that if she disagrees with a student, she doesn't really seem to um dignify them at all. I don't know. Here's what happened. So she reads a quote from Charlie Chaplin, the silent movie guy,
I know who
and
Charlie
it's
Chaplin is.
maybe
I
somebody
mean, yeah,
doesn't.
no,
I
yeah,
don't
you're right. Fair. I'm sorry.
Also, at first it didn't hit with me because she says like Sir Charles some middle name Chaplin, and I didn't put it together at first. But here's the quote she
Ah,
reads. Says, "Man is an animal with primary instincts of survival. Consequently, his ingenuity has developed first, and his soul afterwards. The progress of science is far ahead of man's ethical behavior." And so she asked the class, like, "Hey, what do you think this is about?"
mm-hmm.
And this guy raises his hand, and it closes up on him, and it's like I guess this is something that I think all movies do that I think is so weird because if you're watching a movie, you've probably seen at least a poster. Like I don't always watch the trailers for movies, but I always see like a poster. So you pretty much know like who the star of the movie is.
Yeah,
But
you
it
usually
pans
know like and especially if it's like a bigger movie, like a blockbuster or whatever, then it's usually also like it's usually already something who's already well established as like an actor or an actress. So
yeah.
yeah.
And so far I don't really recognize anybody who's been on screen yet. So this guy raises his hand and they kind of make it seem like he's going to be the star of the movie. And he's like, "Yeah, this is talking about how ingenuity, we're born with it, but ethics, we have to learn." And she's like, "Exactly. Ethically learned behavior. Thank you. Very good. Anyone want to expand on that? What is ethics or something?" And then this girl, Miss Hart, and as this happens, it like pans out again, and we see a guy that I do recognize from stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, he's the student." If I didn't remember from the movie poster, I know that we're gonna talk to him in a bit, but I guess we'll spend some time with these other random people.
Sure.
Yeah. So, Miss Hart says like, ethics is blah blah blah, and the teacher is like, "Thank you. Does anyone want to expand on that?" And nobody raises their hand. And she's like, "Oh, come on, class. At least Miss Hart consulted Webster's."
Oh my god.
Like,
That's so rude. Like, come on, man. That's no way
Yeah,
to
like-
teach students. Like, don't make them feel like they're complete idiots.
So, yeah. So then, we see this guy in the back of the... And he kind of looks like he's doodling. And like I said, he's the only person I recognize from anything. And that's really not saying a whole lot. He's, the guy from... If any of you guys are Disney Channel people, he's in Dog with a Blog and Lemonade Mouth. There you go. So, he's like kind of doodling and he raises his hand and then she's like, "Oh yes, Mr." And he's like, "Van Sickle. Vance. His name is Vance Van Sickle."
Oh.
And he basically goes on this like edgy boy shadow rant about how
the edge.
Well, here's what he has to say about what ethics are.
Okay.
Like ethics, like morals, are just a set of arbitrary rules imposed on us by society that doesn't make them right. And she's
I mean,
yeah.
You know what? I mean, fair enough that not all rules are sure, there are rules within society that we might disagree with, in which case, that's usually why laws can be changed, so that we can make sure that we as a society have all the rules that we all, or most of us, agree are important, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily arbitrary. Like, arbitrary would mean you just think of something and now it's a rule. No, there's usually reasons behind the rule, so I would definitely argue the whole arbitrary part.
Yeah.
Like, usually, like, you don't, like, stealing is usually against the law. Why? Because that's not yours. And somebody else earned that, and you wouldn't want somebody to steal from you either, usually. I mean, that's a very basic reasoning, and it's probably, you could probably make it infinitely more complex, but at its core, why is stealing wrong? Because that's not yours.
Yeah, like an arbitrary rule was you need to give what you have to every third person you see.
Yeah, that would be arbitrary because there's no reasoning there. You just thought of it and you're like, "Yep, that's a rule now." That's arbitrary.
Yeah. But whatever. Like you were saying, you're learning how to think.
I mean,
and shape,
if your college students are like high school students, then sure.
So then she says, "Well, you're really cynical." And just so you new transfers know, in my class, we follow the rules, which is weird because he didn't say he wanted to break any. He just says he thinks
Yeah,
that
he
they're
just
all.
yeah, he just said that they're arbitrary. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
like that's the thing. Like I can disagree with a certain law. That doesn't mean I'm just gonna break it for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. At the very least, no one wants to get in trouble. Yeah. So.
Usually, at least, like unless of course
yeah.
protest. But that's an entirely different story.
Yeah. Yeah. But so then we go closer to him and we see like he's drawing her.
That's creepy.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever. So then he has a question. It's like they do that thing where the teacher asks a question to this person, and she thinks Vance isn't paying attention, so she's like, Mr. Van Sickle, what do you think about it? And she says it like twice, and then he looks up at her, and he's like, you can find the code of conduct on page blah 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 blah. He gives her the answer, and then she's like, but I wanted everyone to see that you weren't paying attention face, that whole thing. And then he's like, and you thought I wasn't listening.
Like a good teacher.
Yeah.
That's totally what you should do, especially in college.
Of course.
Like, and in high school, it's like, sure, teach those kids to behave themselves. But once they're in college, it's like, it's their own fault if they start failing in life.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm too harsh, but whatever.
I mean, the thing is, like, so far, one thing that I just thought was maybe bad is that so far he's the only person who seems to, like, actively be engaging in your class. Like, everyone else, you, like, basically were, like, they're just giving basic answers and they're not really doing anything. He actually gave a thoughtful response. You just didn't agree with it. You said it was cynical, but he is participating in your class.
Yeah.
So far, he's the only person.
That's a good point.
Who's really...
Actually,
yeah.
Like, sure, I remember a class, and of course, again, it's a bit different because chemistry, things are a bit more rigid, I'd say, but you know what? Even if somebody is constantly giving wrong answers to questions while the teacher is trying to guide us towards, like, certain principles and stuff, it's like, at least if the person who constantly answers is wrong the entire time, at least things are kind of moving along. Because then the teacher can be like, no, not quite, think more in, like, this direction. And you at least get somewhere, whereas if everybody's just kind of sitting and nodding, nothing happens.
Yeah, like, one thing, like, and this is, like, basic, like, 10th grade stuff when they teach you, like, or maybe not in all schools, but in my school in 10th grade, a big part of it was just learning about, like, the Socratic method, and just, like, the best way to learn is by question and answer.
Right.
Because, like, even if it is wrong, like you said, you can just guide it along.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, she doesn't build on anything anybody says. She's clearly... I mean, she might as well... Like, I don't know why she's asking questions, because I guess the writers were like, well, teachers need to ask questions to their students. But she seems like she's more like a lecture-based teacher, because she clearly has, like, what she wants to say.
Right.
And it doesn't really...
And that's fine, but then just give a lecture.
Yeah, exactly. So while he does the whole, like, you thought I wasn't listening, and he goes back to doodling, they go back to this Hart girl, and Miss Hart, and she's, like, making this face, like, get a load of this guy. Who does he think he is? But she's, like, in that charm, like, he's actually, like, really cute. So it's, like, even though, like, I find this behavior repulsive, I want to know more about him.
Oh, I'm intrigued by this bad boy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the face she's making.
This bad boy that is just being a student trying to... of course, I don't know his, like, whole motivations and stuff, but he's probably trying to gain some understanding, otherwise he wouldn't be there at all.
I mean, at the very least, he wants to be a lawyer. And so far, he's gonna be a pretty good lawyer, because, like,
as a lawyer,
he's
if you want to figure out what the situation is, you got to be able to ask good questions and bring up good points. That's the whole lawyering thing.
Yeah, and like so far, he's owned this teacher twice. So like he's probably gonna be a pretty good lawyer. All I'm gonna say.
Also, I do quickly want to say, just so the audience and you also know where I'm at with my knowledge of law, is I've seen playthroughs of the Phoenix Wright series. That's what I know about law, and that's like weird crisscross mishmash of American and Japan, well, mostly Japanese law. So that's not even anywhere remotely related to anything. So that's also great.
Yeah. So
Phoenix Wright, great series, by the way. Absolutely, just throwing that out there. It's really good.
So class ends. And she's like, okay, that's our time for today. So everyone's starting to clear up. And then she's like, this is one thing. I don't know why teachers always wait till they release everybody to start making all these final declarations. Because, like, just have some, like, before you wrap up, why can't you just be like, okay, so before you all head out, I just wanted to let you know this. But it's always like, okay, you guys...
Yeah, in movies, it's always like, okay, I'm done now, and then everybody already starts like clearing out and stuff and packing their stuff in their bags and walking out, and then she's still like, oh, don't forget, blah 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 blah, and it's like
what about
that's
yeah,
that's also not at all that not at all matches up with my experiences, where it's like the teacher is like, okay, so next time make sure you've read through this or you've done this, and I'll see you next time, and then everybody leaves.
Yeah, or at least like have it written on the board somewhere and just be like, okay, so we're like done here. Remember to check the online board or whatever. Yeah. See you later. But anyway, so they're all leaving, and she's like, okay, so remember your final exam is a mock trial, and ethic rule of the code of conduct, rule 3 is really important, and basically that rule is that like an attorney has to disclose everything to the tribunal. So class is ending, and she asks him, she's like, Mr. Van Sickle, can I see you? And I get it, we're all adults here in college mostly. I know there are some like rare circumstances where you get to be like younger and go to college. That's fine, that's cool. But I still feel very uncomfortable with this talk.
Oh?
So she opens
you've got me intrigued.
Yeah, so he goes up and he's like, you wanted to see me, Professor Grandiker? And this is the first thing she says to this boy she met who made one statement. And the movie keeps acting like he said something truly radical. I think I don't agree with what he said, but like lots of people have said that before him, and he's not the last.
That's a very basic notion of, I don't, you know what, in part I agree, like I said, in part I agree with it. The other part I don't, but like most people have said this, that just because something is a law doesn't necessarily make it right.
Yeah.
That's like the gist of what he said, and I agree with that.
Yeah,
that's nothing new or strange.
But also, again, just a quick remark before I say what she opens with. He is like I said, in the scene we just watched, he's the only person who's actively contributed to her lecture at all. He's the only person who gave her really anything to go off of. But she says, I hope you're not one of those students who thinks they can get by on their good looks.
What? When has an actual like professor or teacher ever said that to any student?
And when she said that, like, okay, so like, not that this is like really a spoiler, because I feel like hopefully we all know what we're here for right now, but when he turns on her, I was positive that he was gonna like falsely accuse her of sexual harassment or something. That's what I thought. That doesn't happen. So apparently it's okay. It's not even a problem that she said that to him. That's not even an issue.
Not in Lifetime universe.
Well, I've seen movies where that sort of comment comes back to bite you. But true. No, she just says that to him. And weird. He says, no, not at all. I'm here on full scholarship, and I worked very hard to get here. And she's like, I'm glad to hear that. And he's like,
okay.
He's like, and then he's just standing.
He just kind of claps back like I got full scholarship. And then she is like, oh good, I have nothing more to add.
But then, like, he sort of stands there, like, and he looks kind of like, is this, what is this? Why did you call me over here? And she's like,
he's probably
okay.
so confused.
She makes, like, face at him, like, okay. Like, that's all she says, but it's like, you can go now, I'm done. But it's like, you called me over here to tell me that you hope I'm not just too hot to lawyer or something? And, like, I'm wasting your time?
Yeah,
okay.
Like, that's really weird.
But, yeah, I thought that was really weird. That made me feel so strange.
Mm-hmm.
Not even because not because I was, like, worried that she was going to manipulate him or anything, but just, like, I don't know, it just seemed rude at the very least.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, not like that this is like the biggest problem in the world, but I know that there are lots of beautiful people out there who are also very smart, and it's hard for them to get respect in whatever field they truly are passionate about. Not again, like, not that it's like the biggest problem, but it's a problem.
It is
so
a thing that exists that maybe we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so that I think was part of what made me feel bad in this conversation more than like me being like scared for him or something, I guess is my point. Yeah, so
you just kind of look at it and you're like, wow, she could have just handled that way better.
She literally could have just let him leave.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably would have been the best course of action. Just let everybody, including him, leave and then move on to wherever you're going next with your life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is hopefully long and prosperous.
Yes. So, we meet his best friend, and he's like, oh, you can handle Grandiker. But mostly we notice that they both notice this cop is talking to, like, the dean of the school or whatever. I don't really know what his position is. I don't know. But the professor, it wasn't just a heart attack. Rumor has it he OD'd.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
But then Miss Hart from before, she sees Vance, and she's very far away, and it's weird because he was just leaving the same class she was, but she's like across the quad, and she like waves to him and is coming back to him. But because, okay, as they were leaving, the teacher was like, make sure you check your presentation board to see who you're working with. So she now knows that she's working with Vance, and that's why she wants to talk to him. But, like, why didn't you just, like, wait outside the class to talk to him? Whatever. It just seems like but the reason that she had to be so far away to come is so that the best friend could give us some exposition about her.
Ah.
Yeah. Is that Claire Hart, daughter of Donald Hart, owner of
that person?
Professor?
Let me expound about person. Let me give you a detailed biography of person.
Yeah.
Hello, I am exposition man. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, so he like her dad owns like a big fancy law firm, and I guess has his own college, or maybe he teaches at a different school or whatever. She's a big deal in the law community, and the best friend is like, you got no chance with her, bruh. And Vance is like, care to wager a beer?
Wow, whole beer.
Oh, yeah, it's on.
Oh, man, that's such a daring bet. Like, a whole beer.
Yeah. So, as soon as she walks up, she's like, hey, Vance. And she sort of looks at best friend like, scram. I'm talking to Vance over here. And Vance is like, oh yeah, he was just leaving. What? Oh, okay. And he goes away.
Oh, that's so sad. I mean, he did his job. He expositioned, and now he can leave.
Yeah. This is something. The girl who plays... And like I said, they're going to be together on the mock trial, and they flirt a little bit, and he gets her number. But anyway, this girl looks so much like Anna Faris to me, another actress who hopefully someone out there knows and I'm not just crazy, but they look so similar to me. I was positive they're related, but I tried to Google it and it doesn't look like it, or maybe they're keeping it under wraps or something. But
it's more likely that they're just not related.
I know.
I mean, I understand that you really want it to be the case, Axe, but sometimes people just look like other people.
I know.
I know you want to uncover like some grand conspiracy, but this is probably not it.
Yeah. So we go back to the friend and we find out that he's crashing in this house that is Vance's house. And like we get to know a little bit about Vance because the friend is sort of playing darts sitting from the couch, and he's like drinking beer and the darts are far away, and he goes to throw one and Vance like steps right in front of the board as he's throwing it, but then he like misses completely.
What?
And the friend is like, yeah, and the friend is like, Vance, what are you doing?
That's a good question. That's very legit.
And he's like, if I thought you had a shot, I wouldn't have done it. But that's...
Oh, wow. That's still unnecessarily risky.
But if you're new to Lifetime, this is just them letting us know, hey, he's got
bad.
nothing to lose.
He's
oh, yeah.
bad.
I like... Yeah. So, his dad left him this house, and this is something that I think is a little ominous, but his best friend just doesn't seem to mind about him. He's like, dude, you don't even like it at home. Why don't you just crash here with me? We can both crash at your dad's place that he left you. And he's like, no, I just use it when I want to stay anonymous. Which, like...
Who says that?
Why do you need to be anonymous, Vance?
What? Huh?
What are you getting up to?
What?
And then we also learned that, like, while he's working hard to maintain his scholarship and everything, his friend buys essays off of him, basically. And his best friend is also blonde, so maybe that's something. I don't know. Take that somewhere, somebody.
Read too much into it. Go for it.
Yeah, please. Live long and overanalyze. But Professor Grandiker, she like goes deep. She gets his file. This doesn't seem like a thing, but in his file is a hard copy of every essay he's ever done.
Is that a thing? Like, that doesn't sound like it'd be a thing.
It doesn't. No, it seems like once you have your grade and it's input in, it seems like it'd probably get lost in the shuffle somewhere.
I don't know, every essay and report and anything that I've ever written, like, it might still exist in some database if it was something that I, like, turned in, like, digitally, which happens more and more often these days. But, like, outside of that, it's probably just never, like, I don't know, like, maybe it's a thing, but doesn't feel like it'd be a thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, but so she's like looking through it, and we just see A after A after A, and she's like makes his face
smart
like,
boy.
wow,
I mean, he did say he got a full ride scholarship, so he's got to be good at stuff. So.
Yeah. And then she reads aloud to herself a very specific paragraph.
Yes, let me do the aloud thing that people do in movies, so that the audience can listen in.
Yeah. And basically, it's going to come into play later, but he wrote an essay about one case precedent that said that a child under age 7 can't be found negligent. So.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he takes his bike home, and his stepdad is like, "You're late." And then they have the most toxic dinner in the world. Here are like the main talking points. His stepdad is his uncle because he married his mother after his dad ended his life in prison 2 weeks after the funeral.
What?
So that's why they don't get along.
Yeah, I can see that putting a strain on that relationship.
Your brother dies, and your first order of business is
you marry his wife
with his wife.
Like 2 weeks later. What the hell?
Yeah. So they don't get along, and he's like, and so basically, it's just like the same sort of toxic dinner you've all seen, and probably something where it's like, I put a roof over your head. Oh, you're not my old man. Oh, look at you. You're making your mother cry.
Oh my
That sort of toxic dinner. So he
Yeah,
goes up to his room.
the greatest thing about that kind of stuff is when you think about that stuff probably also happens in real life.
Yeah.
That's a really saddening thought, and I'm sorry I brought it up.
Yeah, I kind of thought you were gonna go funny, and you
No,
went down.
no, I just got sad. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's good because we're gonna get a little bit more sad because
Oh, good. I set
he's
the
got
mood
like,
unintentionally.
yeah. So thank you for that. So he goes to his room, and he's got a photo album, and he has his dad's case and like memories in it, and they used to hunt together, him and his dad. So that just lets us know like there's probably gonna be a gun at some point in the movie.
Yeah.
But there, it turns out that in his dad's case, he was wrongly convicted, basically. And there was like a flawed DNA thing or whatever.
Yeah, DNA
But-
is actually not as like reliable as people sometimes think it is, like in court cases. It's really interesting when you actually dig into that kind of stuff, that court cases like and evidence, it's all a lot more like tenuous than people tend to believe it is.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, oh yeah, no, thank you for that though. But yeah, but that didn't come to light till after his father ended his life in prison.
Dang.
So
That's sad.
yeah. So he's an edgy boy,
Yeah.
and that's why he wants to be a lawyer.
I mean, you know what?
That's
Fair enough.
yeah.
That makes sense. Like, that's good character motivation.
Yeah. So now we go back to Grandiker. So while he just had his toxic dinner, and her hubby is just like on the couch, and he's like, "Oh, look at this first edition book. I want to get it. Can I splurge? It's only $800." She's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And
Good.
he's
She
like,
married a gold digger.
well, that's the thing too. He's apparently a professor somewhere too, but like an English professor. I'm just saying that because they're not both lawyers. I'm not like knocking English or something.
Right.
But he's like, well, I only teach 2 days a week now, so I don't know who's more of a breadwinner. But he doesn't have. I don't know. But like every time we see him, he's just like hanging at the house. Maybe he's watering the lawn. Maybe he's watching TV. He's just kind of there.
Okay, huh? I mean,
Like at
I
least
guess they
Phil
established that he
was studying.
Yeah, at least Phil had aspirations. He wasn't very passionate about them because, he barely has emotions, but at least he had aspirations. Like, you can say a lot about Phil, but he sure existed.
Yeah. Oh gosh, this guy though, he's just a plastic bag in the wind. So
Dang.
but then he's like, "Hey, what's eating you? You didn't even seem like bothered that I wanted to spend $800 on a book." And she's like, "It's this new student of mine. He's really smart, but he just seems arrogant." And then hubby is like, "Oh, was this during an ethics lesson?" And then we find out she just says like, "I don't want them to make the same mistake I did." And he's like, "Don't feel bad. Your only mistake was that you were naive." And then we see that this mistake gives her nightmares and the anxiety, so like she wakes up really quick and she takes some of her medication. She has like a nightmare. She takes some of her medication. She goes back to bed, but she like sort of looks back at hubby to make sure he's asleep, and then she goes back to sleep. But then they show that his eyes were open, so he heard it, so he knows.
Okay.
And that's gonna come into play as we go.
Okay. Also,
Yeah.
can I make a wild prediction?
Yeah.
Just right now. Okay, so, and you don't have to answer this right now. We'll see if I'm true later. I mean, you'll know immediately whether I'm
Yeah.
right or not, but we'll see later. I'm gonna guess now that there is a link between her mistake and Vance's dad. That's just a prediction I'm gonna make right now.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna deny or accept that. We're just gonna confirm or deny is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
That's what's smart. That's the right word. But anyway.
Words are hard. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So while she's like asleep, or I don't know, maybe we can jump back a few hours. I don't know the timeline of this, but he's working on his mock trial, his arguments and everything, and then that case precedent that she read earlier, like a child can't be held accountable or whatever, or decided negligent or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like, this ruined my whole case. I can't use that. So it's good that we read that. We saw that scene before.
Yeah.
So he asked the teacher for an extension, and she's like, no, that's not fair to the other students. And he's like, I'm sorry about what I said in class the other day. And she's like, no, that's not what this is about. But she just seems so, like, catty with him that I was really surprised they didn't take on some weird sexual harassment angle with all this, honestly. Because of just, like, the way she behaves with him. It's like a bitter ex for some reason. It's very strange. At some point, they try to qualify it with, like, she sees a lot of herself in him, and that's why she's harder on him.
Yeah, I've never liked that way of looking at things. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Shout out to Shadow Weaver.
Oh, God. Don't remind me. Oh, I will never lose my dislike for her because she is so well written, and that's why I hate her.
Yeah, she is. We're talking about She-Ra, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Season 5 still isn't out yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to this.
Back to this trash. Okay, so she says no, and then his bestie is like, I need to tell you something. And he's like, no, I'm so mad that she didn't do what I said. I'm gonna peel out of the parking lot. I'm so mad and I don't have control of my emotions. Peeling out.
Did you just hear yourself as that's why you're laughing? Cause,
yeah.
Because there's something amazing about peeling out.
Yeah. I
see what you did there, but still.
I thought that was a very, like, spot-on reenactment.
I mean, probably. I'll grant you a probably.
Okay, so, also just, they want us to know that he's the bad guy and Professor Grandiker's the good guy. And, like, I'm not saying he doesn't do bad things. I'm just saying Grandiker did not that you should victim blame, but kind of, because she did, I feel, bring a lot of these problems onto herself.
She also could have handled things better.
Yes. So, at the mock trial, Vance is doing, like, really good. It looks like straight out of Law and Order. He's pulling up some, like, McCoy level moves, and he's just like, this and this.
He's
like
at one
objection.
Point,
yeah,
and
at
then,
one point, because this is...
And then he pulls out his evidence, and he's like, take that!
Yeah. Like, at one point, here's, like, a cute little thing that I thought was cute for people who think lawyering is cute, I guess.
I'm glad that you have to quantify it that way.
Yeah. So, he's like... So, the case, for what I gather, is, like, a kid got hit by a car, and it's, like... And he's defending the driver, she's defending the child who was hit by the car.
Okay.
So, her thing is, like, it was 3 p.m. in a school zone, it was foreseeable that a kid would be there. And then he's like, foreseeable? Was my client supposed to be psychic?
Oh my god, that's such an awful, like, no lawyer would seriously do that. Like, and if your lawyer does that seriously, get a new lawyer.
But I don't know, Grandiker, she's nodding like, okay, good job. I like the cut of your chin, like, yeah.
What?
So, then at one point, she's like, okay, like, Hart, like, basically she's giving, something happens, and she's giving Hart the chance to bring up the precedent.
Right, about how a
like
kid cannot be found negligent.
negligent, yeah. And she's like, okay, like, look, we don't. This is a court of law. We're not just looking for what's fair. Can you cite any precedents or like laws that help your case? And she can't. And then Van Sickle, he pulls like kind of a shady move where he brings in a precedent of his own, basically, where it's like something like if you wrongfully, like if the plaintiff is found innocent, then like, or no, like if basically if his client is found innocent, then whoever's on the other side needs to pay him back 50% of the damages that he was supposed to give them if he lost.
Huh.
Or something.
Okay.
Something like that. So he's like so she makes a face like, what, 50%? So she's like, it's like, I guess it's like the equivalent if you get like really owned in like Checkers. Or something. It seems like that kind of deal that they got going on. That wasn't anything as far as analogies go, but that's what I just said.
Yes.
So then she's like, okay, I just want to ask you, Mr. Van Sickle, is there any reason that you know of that the court shouldn't let the plaintiff win? And he says, well, from all the research here and what we've covered today, no. And then she's like, okay, Miss Hart, you win. And she's like, and he's like, what? And like, she's kind of a bit surprised too, like, really, I won? And then she's like, I'm very disappointed in you. And basically because he didn't bring up this case, he's unethical. But I have so many issues with this. If she had, like, this girl didn't know that precedent.
Right.
She failed to do her research.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. On the, it's a bit interesting because one thing I will say in his defense, or not his defense, in Grandiker's defense, is that because from what I understand from what you told me so far, is that she is aware that he is aware of that precedent.
Right.
Right? So
but
if she then asks to him as a student, like, is there anything here that your opponent could bring up that would ruin your case? Like, that feels like as a student you kind of should answer truthfully, like, yes, this precedent she could have used against me. Like my opponent.
I guess that's what she was that's what he was supposed to do, but it was very much presented as a mock trial. So his thing is like, I'm here for my client.
Right. I mean,
and the bare
I also
minimum,
feel like an actual judge probably wouldn't ask, "Hey, what would ruin your case?" to a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I don't like. How do you know when you're like in and out of character? But also,
that's a good point.
It never clarifies. Did she read everybody's entire
that's
essay
also a good
history?
point. Like, what if he genuinely forgot?
Like, anytime, like, I mean, I know, like, in law, like, if being a lawyer, you have to remember so much stuff. But, like, when I wrote essays, I forgot it the minute that paper was over and on to the next. Like, none of that's being held in until you need it again. And then you start over with research. And then
maybe you'll have your memory jog be like, oh, hey, I remember this. And then you can use it faster. But that's about it.
Yeah, so it just seems really weird that he's being held accountable because she happens to know what he knows.
Right, or what she thinks he knows, which he does know in this case, but maybe he did forget. Like I said, he could have forgotten also. Like,
and this is one thing. It's weird that she's like, because like she's like, it's unethical because the rule that, remember, this is the rule that he broke apparently, which is that an attorney needs to disclose everything to the other side. But no, I'm under the impression they need to disclose everything they're gonna use.
Yeah, I thought that was how it worked, that you had to,
like,
like, all the evidence needs to already, like, all the evidence already needs to be in evidence, like in the court record or something like that, for you to be able to bring it up. Like, things have to be disclosed beforehand. Things that you're gonna bring up, you need to disclose beforehand. These are all the things I'm gonna bring up.
Yeah, and like from what I sort of gathered, it's like
I know nothing about law.
And I'm about to just reference what I've seen usually happen in Law and Order, so we're not qualified. Very clear on that. But basically, like, if, like, one lawyer will be like, in the case of blue v. green, this happened. And then they can be like, objection. Actually, in red v. yellow, they said that was bad and that this is better. And then the judge is like, I'm going to go with whichever one. That's what happens. They don't just be like, hey, hun, look, I know I'm, like, annihilating you in this trial right here, but, like, remember this happened?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you present that to the class? I'm gonna...
to the court, like that.
I'm gonna ruin this dude's life, and now he needs to pay for this mistake he made, because you didn't do your research, but I went above and beyond, so...
Yeah.
Here you go. That doesn't seem ethical to me.
Yeah, like
because
as a
that's
lawyer,
like now two teams working against this dude.
Yeah, like as a lawyer, you're specifically supposed to defend your client to the best of your abilities, without, of course, breaking any laws, like regarding that. But like your first priority is your client.
Yeah,
that's your job. Like if lawyers decided, oh hey, I'm going to. No matter, like, I'm always going to go with my biases, then you can't be a good lawyer. As a lawyer, you have to stand behind your client.
Exactly. But, like, and so I just don't agree with...
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I don't agree with her. But now...
If she had made it more clear that this was, like, out of character, like, not part of the trial, but just out of character, like, maybe... In the way she asked it, maybe be a bit more clear, like, okay, let's say, like I said, if she made it more clear, like, okay, what evidence could the opponent have used to completely blow your case out of the water, like, separate from this mock trial?
Yeah.
Or something. Like, and then he could have been like, well, there's this precedent, and then she could have been like, that's correct. And then, of course, it also wouldn't have been for being unethical. It would have been good for, like, hey, you remembered a thing. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like I'm getting less clear as I keep talking.
But yeah, like, but she says that what he did was tout him out to cheating, which I do not agree with. No,
I heavily disagree with that. Like, that's not.
I disagree. I don't think he cheated at all.
No, I don't think that counts as cheating in any way.
And, like, she's like, so you're failing, and you're gonna, like, get a bad grade. And he's like, but my scholarship. Which I feel like she's being so ridiculous.
Yeah, like, this just feels like she's trying to ruin this man's life.
For no reason other than, like, he's good looking.
Other than the fact that he was a bit snarky.
Yeah.
And barely that. I mean, as far as I know, of course, I didn't actually see the movie. But, was he kind of snarky? Even if he was snarky, like, that's irrelevant.
She is like a target. She keeps his file in her office, and we don't see her. Like, it's not like that's a thing she does. Like, even though this would be, like, lame, I don't know. But if her, like, assistant had been like, oh, look at you, you're always looking through your students' files, nosy McGee over here. If we knew that was just, like, a thing she did to be thorough.
Yeah, then it would have been still weird, but at least it would have been like, okay, at least she's not targeting this student.
So then they're like, I think the writers were like, you know what, I think we might be losing them a little bit. They might be on Vance's side right now, because we gave him a sad backstory. Mm-hmm. And Grandacre seems to be crazy, really. Yeah. So... Okay, so now we need to make Vance really bad. So he grabs her arm and he's like, you think you can fail me? And she takes her arm back. She's like, don't do that. And she leaves.
Okay, good.
And
glad.
So
now I dislike everybody. Good job, movie.
Yeah, like I don't want him. Like I get it, he's bad. He's not. You don't lay your hands on anybody
Uh huh.
when you don't like how things are going down. But she kind of provoked him. Not that he should have acted out, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, yeah.
had this not occurred, none
She did
of
appear
this.
to be targeting him, which is also not okay.
Yeah, like if they both got into a fist fight,
Hmm.
I guess that would have been okay. Maybe.
Well, not okay, but it would have been understandable because
Wouldn't have been
they
like,
both aggressed a bit, and they shouldn't have either.
yeah, like if the movie just devolved and it was just the two of them throwing punches at each other, duking
All of a
it out.
sudden, it's like an MMA fight or something.
Yeah, if that is what had happened, then I think the playing field would be equal enough that Grant Kerr was in the wrong completely.
Right.
But as it stands now,
Vance, he did a bad. She also did a bad, and she did a bad first.
yes, that's yes.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's the best way to put what happened. Okay, so then we find out. So this is kind of where like the movie starts like kind of going a bit faster.
Okay.
She's taking more of her meds, and like someone comes into her office and she hides them really quick. She's applying for like a grant application, and the dean's like, Vance has been like getting perfect A's till you failed him, and we can't afford an appeal right now. So like, can you just find a reason to pass him? And she's like, my grant's to start an ethics board. I can't. This is unethical. And he's like, ironic, I know, but I don't condone breaking the rules. Sometimes you gotta bend them though.
Yeah, like,
Which is like,
I mean, the thing is, the fact that she didn't have to give him a perfect grade either. Like, but she is failing him.
yeah, like,
Is what I'm understanding here, and that's
she's failing. Like,
why?
yeah,
Like that feels like she shouldn't.
Yeah,
'Cause
he did everything right up to this one point where she asked an additional thing.
She asked an additional thing, specifically trying to catch him out.
Yeah. If everything had just played its course.
She could have brought it up and maybe told his opponent, like, you should study up more on cases like these.
Yeah. But then she just wins. I thought that was not, like, I think that was just unfair. But the rest of the movie doesn't agree, I guess. I don't know. So here's the thing. She's like, ugh, fine. So she, like, talks to her husband, and no. Okay, wait. Okay, so she's, like, gonna do some more super sleuthing on Vance. And she finds out about his dad and how he was wrongfully convicted, and she starts getting anxious again. And she calls her husband, and she's like, no, bad lawyering killed his dad, just like I killed that man, basically. You don't know the specifics yet, though, but you're basically right. They're not there, sort of. You're basically right. So then, like, her husband, he's like, you're being really sketchy now, and, like, you need to start seeing a therapist. You're taking these pills, and we already know they're not going to help you because they haven't been helping you.
I mean, if her medication hasn't been helping her, why hasn't she been talking with somebody to get different medication? That's how that works.
Well, it's very clear to me, and, like, I guess I feel like she's abusing her medication. Because, at the very least, it seems like we're supposed to think so because her husband is like, you're taking them again. I thought you stopped. So, they tried to establish that she's abusing her medication, basically, is what yeah.
That's fair enough.
So, and I guess the thing that I think tips me off the most is that she's always hiding it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, they never outright say that she has, like, a problem, but it seems like that's supposed to be the implication.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Vance is coming in for to meet with her to talk about the grade or whatever, and she hides them away really quick, and she's like, oh, you just saw me taking my allergy medication. He didn't bring it up at all, but she said that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, okay.
so then she asks, is there anything going on? And he's like, well, remember when I asked you for that extension? It's because my mom has cancer.
Mm.
And she's like, oh my gosh, well, like, okay, what you did was wrong, but, like, we can do a makeup assignment to make up for it.
What you did was wrong. Disagree on my end, but okay, sure. Whatever makes you feel better.
Yeah. And then she feels so sympathetic that she pulls out his file again and calls his home. And his stepdad answers, and we find out she does not have cancer. He lied because he's not ethical.
Because he's an unethical boy. What a bad boy. No ethics whatsoever. I mean, I'm not gonna say he's in the right. But,
No.
But movie, come on, movie.
That's so weird.
It's so ham-fisted, is what it is. Like, hey, get it yet? Hey, do you get it yet? Hey, this guy, ethics, do you get it yet?
Yeah. And they have such a misguided view on ethics. So the stepdad calls Vance and he's like, what are you getting into now? You're making your mother cry. And
I love that part of your characterization. That's very good.
Yeah, I have to say that part to keep the voice, even though it's at the end of what I say. So then he goes to the hideout, and his friend was looking at a bunch of his guns, and he's like, hey, don't touch those. My father used to tell me that. But they just wanted to remind us that he has guns.
Yeah, just want to remind you people, hey, he has firearms. Hey, welcome to America.
Yeah, so now things like I said, they're kind of revving up. So he tells his friend, like, now she knows that I was lying about the cancer, so I'm not going to get to make the makeup assignment now. What do we do? And he's like, okay, no one has any secrets on the internet. Let's dig up what we can find. So here's what happened. And this is where I have the biggest issue.
Okay.
And I'm going to get through all this and I'll explain what my problem is. Okay, so she didn't disclose information. Okay. But it was not a case precedent that she left out.
Mm-hmm.
She failed to mention a witness that came forward to offer an alibi for this man. And then he goes to jail and ends his life.
Huh.
A person came forward and said, hey, I was with them. They did not do this thing. I'm going to keep that to myself. That's what she decided. That's what she thought was good.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And she was, okay, so okay, just so we're super 100% perfectly clear.
Mm-hmm.
A witness came forward,
Mm-hmm.
claiming to be able to supply an alibi for her client.
Not her client. She was the DA. She had to get them in jail, but this person came forward. I guess I'm assuming they went by the police station.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So she found out about it first, and she never let anybody know.
I mean,
she didn't disclose. Yeah.
That's pretty wrong. That's
not even up for debate.
Yeah, that's not correct. You can't. Oh my God, that's I think that's illegal.
Yeah, she had to resign to avoid criminal charges.
Oh my God.
And now, if he didn't lay a hand on her, this movie could have gone a whole different way, and it would have been so much better.
With him laying a bit of a hand on her, this could still go a very different way.
Just be like, look, Dean guy, I definitely appeal because I did more research than the other girl, and I kept that to myself, and for that I fail, but she's allowed to break the law.
she
end a
never
man's
faced
life,
charges
babe.
for this crime that she committed.
And she has any right to. She has no leg to stand on. I
To
don't care if
teach.
she learned from it.
Yeah, like like
She can't fail
you
me.
want. I mean, even like regardless of the failing or not, like I honestly, as a student, I'd pull into question whether or not you as an institution would want somebody with a past like that just on your well, I guess it depends,
Yeah.
but like I'm sure cases could be made. Like let's not be. I'm not gonna be too harsh on that, but I do
Yeah,
think
like-
that she should have faced some consequences other than resign. Being
Yeah.
forced to resign. Like what she did, it did kill a man indirectly.
Yeah. Yeah, like, it's. At the very least, she has no right to be this hard on him.
Yeah.
If anything, if she. I think what would have been. I think, like, this is a Lifetime movie, so this wasn't going to happen ever. I know.
Mm-hmm.
But what could have, in the real, if this was real, what could have happened was after it happens, like, look, I totally get doing whatever it takes to win. And technically, you didn't do anything wrong. But here's what happened to me, and it's a slippery slope, and I just don't want you to fall down that path.
Yeah, exactly. Like she could have explained, like, "Hey, listen, I know it seems I'm hard on you, and maybe I am, and I apologize, but here's my reasoning why, and I hope that you can understand where I'm coming from." And then maybe still give him like a makeup assignment and hope that he learns something from that.
Yeah. Like, something.
Like maybe
anything
not even necessarily like go into detail on her end, because that might also have unintended consequences that she doesn't want to deal with, but like at the very least explain why you're being so harsh on him, even vaguely.
Yeah.
Just to get some understand, like level the playing field a bit.
Yeah. So now, so they got dirt on her, but it just gave them motivation to knock her down a few pegs. So Bestie's like downstairs. He's keeping watch. He sneaks into her office and he finds her keys and he like Xeroxes them really quick. And then he goes home and he like traces out a copy of the keys and like cuts out like a metal sheet basically.
Mm-hmm.
Can you trace your keys? Is that a thing? Can you make your own copies of keys?
I mean, with the way keys work, I guess you technically could. I mean, you'd have to be really precise at it, though, to make sure that all the grooves are exactly right. Like, what kind of key is it?
It's like just like a key, like a house key.
A house key. Okay. I mean, that would be tough. Like, there's a reason key making, like locksmithing, is like a craft. Like, it's not something you just do usually, I don't think. Of course, not an expert. But to my understanding, my very limited understanding, it's a craft. So it's not something you just do aside. We'll drop something again.
Yeah, so, well, anyway. He, passes her on, like, she's leaving the dean's office because he's like, can you just pass him anyway? She's like, no, and she stands her ground. So she's leaving the office, and he's coming in to talk to the dean now, and, he starts off, like, all friendly, like, oh, hi, Mrs. Grandiker, how are you? And then the assistant, like, she's like, oh, that's nice. And she looks back at her computer, and he leans in, and he's like, I'm gonna make your life miserable. And she, like, is like, don't threaten me. And he's like, what are you talking about? And the assistant looks up, and she's like, I didn't hear anything.
Oh.
So that's that.
That's a weird scene.
Yeah. So he breaks into her house, and he sees that she has anxiety medication and sleeping medication, and he swaps them. Because they look pretty similar. Just swaps them. And they have different dosages. So sleeping pills are typically stronger
Yeah.
than the other one. So he did that. So that's fun, I guess.
Great.
But he's not done.
Good times. It's
Yeah.
just a prank, bro.
Yeah, exactly. You're with it. So he logs into her bank from her computer, and he donates her savings, 15K, to a charity group that supports those who are wrongly convicted and getting justice for them. Like, just be petty while you murder someone.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we
she,
all
like,
we
wakes-
all know the logical direction this is going to take, so don't worry about spoiling. It's a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, get with it. So she wakes up and she's like, "What was that?" But then the next morning, hubby's gonna buy the $800 book, but he can't. And he's talking with her, and she's like, that kid, he broke into our house, and that student I was telling you about, he did it. I remember I heard something in the middle of the night. And the husband is like, okay. Alternatively, though, you've been taking medications, and one of the side effects of those medications are sleepwalking. And you've been feeling very guilty about what's going on. So maybe in your sleep you did it and just didn't remember it. And she's like,
I mean,
like, he's kind of got a point. I mean, we know he's wrong.
we know he's wrong, but still, yeah,
Yeah.
he might just be like, I mean, yeah, she might just be a bit out of it and then do that. Like, that is a thing that could have happened, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah. So, she gets defensive and she leaves, and she basically, like, does a lap around the house, and then she comes back and she's like, "Oh, maybe I am losing it." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I've been handling this all wrong. Like, I know, like, you're feeling stressed and everything. I'm sorry. I just, I worry about you, and, like, I've been overreacting, or, like, I haven't been reacting the right way." But we should, like, I'm gonna call, like, you call your doctor and, like, schedule an appointment to talk, and I'm gonna call a detective to, like, check the house out, basically.
Right.
Because we could both, one of us is right, let's plan for both. So it's the detective, the same detective we saw earlier, who was talking about the dead professor around the campus. And so she's just like, get new locks and get a security system, and let me know if you find out anything else. And then we see that Vance, he's got one of those guns. What is it called? Like, is the sniper part the part that you look through to, like, look at the person you're gonna kill?
That's called a scope.
Okay, so he's, like, ducked down across the street or whatever, looking through the scope, and he's, like, targeting them. And it's like, oh no, this escalated a lot.
Yeah, like, oh my god. Just pull out a hunting rifle, why don't you?
Yeah, so then Bestie is like, look, I tried to hack the mainframe to change your grade, but there's a firewall, so, like,
I tried
only
to
grant
get
occur.
in. Just say those words.
Yeah.
He's in. Except he wasn't.
Yeah.
The firewall's too good.
Yeah. Which I don't know a lot about hacking, but it doesn't seem like he really tried that much from what we see. It is like, I don't know. But anyway, then Vance is like, fine, I'll just have to get her to change the grade herself.
What?
So, yeah, so he's like, sees her in the hall, and she's like, I know you're the one who broke into my house, and you might think you can play innocent, but you're not fooling me. And he's like, he gets, like, close, and he's like, and she's like, oh, first she's like, there's nothing you can do that's gonna make me change your grade. And he's like, oh, yes, there is. I'm gonna ruin your life that you'll beg me to make it stop. And she's like, hey, stop it. Don't do this and this.
That's all
and,
pretty
like,
messed up.
And then So now students are starting to like walk in the hallways, I guess. Like no one was really there when this started, but then she's like still mad because of what he said the first time, and then he's like, "Whoa. Careful, those are some serious allegations. I might have to sue for defamation." Sure, around all these witnesses, and she's like, "Don't be cute, like you're threatening me," and blah blah blah. And then students are staring, and she's like, "Hey, get out of here!" And then they all disperse. I don't think I'd disperse. I'd want to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I don't know. I would personally probably just I would have already left. Like I would be like, I'm not getting involved in any of this.
Yeah, like not like I would like a full like on what would you do kind of deal, but like
I mean, yeah, either ask either of them like are you okay, or just kind of be there just to be like just to maybe be there in case it comes to blows or something like.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because either way, it's a weird. I think, or I mean, and even at the very least, I feel like one person would probably just be like a little shook. Like, why is this happening? This is not like
what's going on. What happened to my peaceful school?
Yeah. So the teacher sees the two, and he's like, "You have somewhere to be, Van Sickle." And then he tells her like, "Hey, look, after you proctor this test or whatever, come to my office. I think we have a lot to talk about." So it kind of seems like, I guess, he believes her now on what she's been saying about him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And so she goes to the bathroom, she takes more pills, she winds up passing out in the middle of the exam before she even passes them out. And the cop on her case comes to the school, and the paramedic explains, like, oh, she mixed up her medications because, like, they look really similar. It's just that this one has, like, a little symbol here. Kind of an easy mistake to make. And the cop is like, that's the same thing that happened with the guy who died in the beginning of this movie.
Oh.
I gotta see if there's any... Yeah, I gotta see if there's
Wait a tick, wasn't he also wasn't he previously the teacher of our unethical boy?
Yeah. So
unethical boy.
Yeah. So she's back home, and Vance calls, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill your husband. Do you think just because he's talking to the alarms guy at the front door right now that I won't?"
Oh and my god. Escalation. Like, holy crap. Like, at this point, like, you know what, I'm not going to victim blame. Like, what he's doing is hella wrong. What the hell?
Yeah, no, he hard. Yeah, there's no more ambiguity. I'm like, well, who's right or who's wrong. Yeah, like, he went off the deep end.
He is going way off the deep end, and that's all on him.
Yeah, like,
oh boy.
If he had just gone to the dean and made a normal appeal, he would have won.
Probably, yeah. Like, he could have just been like, hey, I got this, I don't agree with it, here's why. He could have made a case. Like, he could have made a case. He's trying to become a lawyer. Make cases, it's what you're trying to get good at.
Yeah, why can't you use your words, Vance? Why can't you use your words? So, he's... Okay, so she's like, okay, fine. I don't even care anymore. This is getting out of hand. I'll change your dumb grade. Meet me at my office. So then the cop finds out about Vance's secret hideout place where he likes to be anonymous, and they go there. Here's something weird. Like, they don't really find much, but they do find, like, he burned a picture of Grandiker, and she, like, with her bare hand, she's not wearing gloves. She just picks up a scrap of flimsy burnt paper and hands it to another officer and is like, here, bag this.
Oh. Yeah, that's smart. That's procedure.
That doesn't seem helpful to anybody. Really, in any way. But whatever, they do that.
I mean, it was burned, right? So there is a bit of a case to be made that there's probably not any prints left on it, so it's not... Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter that much, but...
Maybe, I guess not. It's just like... But now we know, like, someone burned a picture of her in this house.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I guess. I don't know. Anyway. So, now we go to her office, and, like, she's changing the grade, but he doesn't even, like, wait till she finishes or whatever. He starts, like, monologuing, and he's like, I knew you'd do it, and all this stuff, but then he notices that she's recording. So she manages to steal the camera, and she's running, and he's chasing her down the halls with a gun. But Joe is on patrol that night, and he's not gonna let another teacher die on his watch. So he calls, and he's like, "We got a gunman on site," and I guess the other security boys are on the job. So they're running, and they're also like armed security people, like they have their own guns.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, I didn't know that college security officers often had guns, but okay, this is like a real security team.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I already find it weird that police would be armed with guns, but that's just because I live in a country where that's not usually the case.
right.
Cultural differences.
The more you know. Okay, so then she winds up like running, and he's still after her. She hides the camera in like a random locker, and she just sort of like, and she's hiding. And like, this is one thing. And we already touched on this a little bit, but like at this point, he's in so deep. There's no way he's not going to jail.
Yeah, like...
Does the grade really even matter anymore?
I mean, probably not. Like, come on. Like, I mean, I guess he's just crazy. Like, I mean, that's also a Lifetime movie thing, right? Where, like, at some point, the villain goes just nuts.
Yeah,
the villain just goes completely nuts, and logic goes out the window as far as it existed in Lifetime universe. And, like, it's like escalation is usually, like, the biggest problem Lifetime movies have, honestly, where it just goes from 0 to 200 in the span of, like, 5 minutes. Like, there's the pivotal point in the movie where we go from, like, maybe 10 to, like, 500, and we just don't stop until the end. And usually we literally don't stop until the end, and like the epilogue, you're like, well, they set up for a sequel that's never gonna happen.
I've conformed to society's arbitrary morals and ethics for too long.
Time to grab my gun.
Exactly. So Joe finds Vance first, and he holds his gun, and he's like, kick it over to me, and Vance kicks over his gun like a little bit, and Joe like crouches down, and he's still like pointing the gun at him like a little bit, but this does not seem like anything that a security guard would do. It seems like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like it'd be smarter to just like, he doesn't have a gun right now. I'm going to walk forward with my gun, grab him, and we're going to leave this gun here for the police to find or whatever, and we're going to go somewhere else away from this gun and wait for the cops to come.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have done. But I'm not in this. So he goes to get the gun, but then, you know, he's not really paying as much attention to Vance anymore while he's trying to, like, cautiously hold the gun up to him and grab this gun off the floor. So then Vance jumps him, and in the shuffle, he kills Joe. So
Not
at this
Joe.
point... Joe.
Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I like Joe. He was a man of few words, but he was a good guy. That we never really got to know at all. Like, at all. We knew his name was Joe.
Yeah.
And he was a security guard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about where our knowledge ends.
Yeah.
But I felt a connection.
Yeah, Joe, he did his job.
Well, he tried to do his job. And then he died in the line of duty, and that's pretty sad.
Let nobody say he didn't show up to work. So, but at this point, like, he, like, definitely jail now. Like,
Yeah, like he
Like,
just killed a man.
yeah, you did a bad.
You,
So
you did a murder.
yeah, you
That's you know
murked.
that's against one of those arbitrary rules in society where we made it a law where it's like you do that and then you're very much in the wrong usually and jail time at the very least.
Come on, Your Honor. This is arbitrary. You know what?
You know what?
Yeah,
You know what? Was my client supposed to know that the gun was going to go off accidentally and kill the security guard?
man, you know what? I like the cut of your jib. You know what?
I could be a
Forget the
lawyer.
rules. Let's do this. Let's all kill people. You're off the hook.
Yeah, like rules don't matter. Let's go. Anarchy everywhere. And not the fun kind of anarchy. I mean the purge kind of anarchy.
Yeah. Let us purge.
Let's get purging.
Well, on that note, Grandacre finds a bat in the locker room, and she's like gonna defend herself, so she hides in the gym with it. And Vance, again, it's really funny. I wasn't planning on bringing up the purge, but now that it's out there, he comes in and he's full anarchy mode. He's like, ah ha ha, looks like your day of reckoning's here.
Oh my
Time to meet your
God.
judge and jury.
Oh
or should I
my-
say, or should I say executioner?
Oh
And
my
she
God, that's such a bad line.
has no time for his quips. She runs up and with a bat just swings it at his head, killing him.
Let me just run up to this guy with a gun?
Yeah, what has she got to lose? Actually, yeah, I guess he still has the gun, or maybe he left it on Joe. I don't.
Why
but
would he leave
however,
it with Joe? Doesn't he want to kill her? Like,
I don't really know what he wants anymore. It seems like he's still in his mind thinks he's gonna get an A.
I want my A!
So
I
he's
can't
like-
fail this class. My scholarship.
So now he's like, yeah. But then it's like, or does she kill him? Because he immediately wakes up and now he like grabs her leg and pulls her down. So she's slithering towards the gun and he's slithering after her. But then he starts to get up first and she shoots him. And then the cops bust in and they run to the corpse. And then hubby runs in and he hugs her. And then the detective comes and she's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Am I going to jail?" And then she's like, "No, you are the victim." And then hubby hugs her and rubs her head. And he's like, "It's all over now. It's all over. All over." Which would have been like... And then we would have looked away and asked ourselves, man... What are ethics really? Makes you think.
What are ethics for? What does it all
But-
mean?
But now it's 8 weeks later, and the dean gives her grant check because, to quote, "we could all use a little lesson in ethics." So she's
Wow.
gonna start her board.
Oh my God.
And now she has a new quote to open her class with.
Oh.
Like, what is it? Something like, rules for they're not rules for just and unjust conduct, but are those deeper illuminations in whose light justice and injustice, good and evil, means and ends are seen in fearful sharpness of outline.
Okay, I will say, also wasn't a fan of the previous one, but at least the previous one was nice and snappy, you know?
Yeah.
And this one is just
Listen,
are you trying to monologue? Are you trying to be like you're being way flowery? Like, I don't even understand what you said.
yeah.
Like, literally, I have no idea what you just said. Like, it's just too much. It's you know what? I'm gonna here's my like tagline for my what did you call it earlier? Motto.
What do you... I don't know. I don't remember.
Good. Anyway, whatever you called it earlier, Mine is simply, don't be a dingus.
Yeah.
Just don't be a dingus. I feel like that's the easiest, the easiest way to give you a nice, like, one rule for life is just don't be a dingus.
Yeah. That's fair. But, so she's got her new, and this one, this quote is way clunkier.
Oh, it
than
for
the
sure
first one.
is.
I don't even, it's not good. It's, anyway. But, then a student raises his hand and he says, Miss Grant, yes, Professor, I have a question. And he's like kind of good looking and he's got long black hair like the last student had. And then the teacher calls on him and then she looks right at us. Because here we go again.
Oh boy, here's another crazy killer. Question mark.
Yep, and that about wraps this up.
I mean, like I said, with Lifetime movies, let's set up for a quote-unquote sequel that will never happen. Or, like, imply that, oh, the problems are not over yet.
Yeah, pretty much. It's...
Like, okay, so here's general progression of Lifetime movie. Start with shocking opening scene.
Yeah.
Follow that by peaceful music and a nice little drive or something. Followed by good old suddenly somebody wants to kill somebody else. And then end in like a creepy cliffhanger ending.
Yeah.
And there's your Lifetime movie.
Yeah. The ones that don't... I don't know why so many... I've watched too many Lifetime movies, though, that I'm just really used to the 8 weeks later now part of it. To the point that, like, where, like, other movies where they don't have that, I'm like, but what? We don't get to see what happens next?
It just ends here, and it's like, you know what? Normally, like, for most people, that's like, yeah, that's a good point to end it on. Good final note, end of story. Everything is fine now. And for Lifetime movies, it's... My favorite, honestly, still has to be that one where it's like we watched it with Locke, and she pointed out that it was like a doctor's, like a psychiatrist office or something at the end, and she pointed out that it looked so much like an empty bathroom.
Right.
That weird oval-shaped, like tile floor, like.
Yeah.
It was weird. Like, that didn't look like an office at all. Like, it barely had a desk. The desk didn't even have a computer on it. It was weird.
Yeah, there was like a phone and we could see that it wasn't plugged into anything.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that was so bad. That was so bad.
We have to add that to our never-ending list of Lifetime movies to talk about. As always... Thank you, Jelle, for coming on another adventure with me.
No problem. I live for these.
Thanks. And thank you guys out there for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. And leave comments, because I need friends. Okay. Bye.